The mental errors that kill survivors quietly. Before we begin, subscribe if you value survival lessons learned through history rather than motivation or gear lists. Most people imagine survival as a physical problem: cold, hunger, injury. History shows something far more uncomfortable. People often died not because their bodies failed, but because their thinking did. These deaths were quiet, gradual, and preventable until they weren't. Survivors rarely collapsed suddenly. They drifted into failure through small mental errors repeated over time. One of the most common errors was false urgency. People believed they had to move immediately, act quickly, or push through conditions that really demanded patience. Soldiers marched into storms because, well, delay felt dangerous. Refugees traveled at night out of fear, which just increased injury and exhaustion. History shows that urgency often came from anxiety, not necessity. Those who survived learned to distinguish real deadlines from imagined ones. Acting too soon killed more people than waiting too long. Another deadly error was plan fixation. Once people committed to a route, schedule, or strategy, they resisted changing it even as conditions deteriorated. History records countless cases of soldiers following orders that no longer matched reality, explorers pushing routes that weather had closed, and civilians clinging to evacuation plans that had become traps. Survivors were those who treated plans as disposable. They adapted early, not heroically late. Overconfidence followed closely behind. People with skills, experience, or equipment often believed they could handle more exposure than they actually could. History punished confidence that wasn't constantly re-evaluated. Veterans froze, drowned, or dehydrated because they trusted familiarity over present conditions. Survivors recalibrated constantly. They assumed the environment would win unless proven otherwise. Denial was, another silent killer. People often ignored early warning signs like cold, numbness, dehydration, sudden weather shifts, or even just fatigue, because, acknowledging them meant facing up to some pretty tough decisions. History shows us honestly that denial delayed action until recovery became really impossible. Survivors, on the other hand, acted at the first signs of trouble, not waiting until symptoms became severe. They understood that early discomfort was a warning, not a challenge to endure. It's really important, to recognize and actually respond to those early warning signs. Tunnel vision also killed quietly. Under stress, people narrowed their focus to a single problem: finding water, reaching shelter, following a trail, while ignoring secondary threats. It's easy to miss what's happening around you when you're fixated on just one thing. History shows that many died solving the wrong problem perfectly. Sometimes, even if you solve something flawlessly, if it's not the right issue, disaster can still strike. Survivors maintained situational awareness. They constantly asked what else could go wrong and, adjusted behavior accordingly. Another mental error was energy blindness. People underestimated how quickly fatigue eroded judgment. History shows that exhaustion preceded nearly every fatal mistake. Survivors treated energy as a non-renewable resource. They rested before collapse, ate before hunger became acute, and reduced workload before decision-making degraded. No amount of toughness compensated for cognitive fatigue. Social isolation was another subtle killer. People believed self-reliance meant separation. History shows the opposite. Those who withdrew unnecessarily lost shared labor, morale, and perspective. Survivors formed small, functional groups whenever possible. They shared decision-making to counter individual bias and error. Isolation amplified mistakes. Normalization of danger was another trap. As exposure continued, people accepted worsening conditions as normal. Cold, hunger, and fatigue became baseline. History shows that this gradual adjustment delayed corrective action until thresholds were crossed. Survivors refused to normalize decline. They measured conditions against safe standards, not recent experience. Optimism bias also played a role. People assumed tomorrow would be better, that the weather would break, supplies would appear, or help would arrive. History punished optimism not grounded in evidence. Survivors planned for the worst outcome while hoping for the best. They acted as if rescue would not come, even while seeking it. Perhaps the most dangerous mental error was identity attachment. People clung to who they believed they were, strong, experienced, prepared, even when circumstances demanded humility. History shows that survival favored those willing to abandon self-image. Survivors accepted vulnerability early. They changed behavior without shame. Applying these lessons today means training the mind, not just the body. So practice delaying action under stress. And, rehearse abandoning plans when the situation calls for it. Also, it's important to learn to recognize early warning signs and respond decisively. Manage your energy as carefully as you would food or water, and whenever possible, seek perspective outside your own head. Survival is not about bravery or confidence, it's really about disciplined thinking under pressure. History does not remember most of the people who made these errors. It only records the outcomes. But the patterns are consistent and, they are still killing people quietly today. If this perspective matters to you, go ahead and subscribe to Strange History and share this with anyone who thinks survival failure looks dramatic. History shows it usually looks calm, gradual, and completely avoidable, until it isn't.